Hello and welcome to Reading with Mo. Today I am coming at you guys with a book recommendations video. I wanted to recommend some books that I feel like people will maybe more enjoy even a little bit more in the summer months. Right now in California it is ridiculously hot. I think it's like triple digits today, so I feel like it's very fitting. Our summer is going to be here for a little while still, so might as well read some books that also kind of fall into the summer mood. So I have 10 recommendations for you guys today. I have read all of these books in the past and wanted to put them together in a list because I feel like maybe you will enjoy reading them this summer as well. First up, we have Last Summer on State Street by Toya Wolf. This is a young adult coming of age story that takes place over the course of one summer in Chicago back in 1999, and we are following a group of friends. They all live in this housing project that has been told it's going to be like demolished, and this is their last summer all together. Hopefully they'll be rehoused together in a new block, but nothing is certain or for sure what's going to be happening with them. They're very young. They're about 11 years old. There is this new girl that comes into their friend group, and it definitely sparks off a shift. There's already a shift going on because their lives are all changing, but this kind of just changes more so the dynamic between the friends. This book touches on a lot of themes, but I would say the big one that it touches on is friendship. We do get to also see some of the adults, like early adulthood lives of the girls. There's definitely a lot of hallmarks from a lot of our childhoods in the summer, playing double dutch, eating snow cones, things like that. So while it does touch on some obviously more serious topics, there are things and scenes that kind of just really feel like the book says it's in summer. The next book I want to recommend is one I debated whether or not I was going to put on this list or not, and that's Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. I know this book was so hyped up for a long time when it first came out. There was a movie adaptation, and I have seen it and I like the movie. But I know there's just like, the book got so overhyped that I think people went into it thinking this was going to be like the best thing they ever read of life, and obviously nothing is going to probably live up to such high expectations. So I know a lot of this book has a lot of low reviews on Goodreads because so many people went in with like the highest of expectations. Like people were just raving about this book. The reason I want to include it on this list is, while it's not one of my favorite books of all time, it does give a very summery feel because of the setting, taking place in the marshes and stuff. And I feel like the whole theme of someone coming of age just feels very summery to me in general. If you aren't familiar with this story, it takes place in the late 60s, and we're following this girl who's called like Marsh Girl. Her real name is Kaya Clark, and there has been a local boy who's gone missing, and people suspect her of it because she is very societally different. She keeps to herself. She lives in the marshes. She's very independent, just very different from what society would expect someone of her age, especially a woman, to be like. Our main character, Kaya, she was abandoned pretty much very early in her life, and she's mostly raised herself. Her mom walked out on her. She doesn't have a father that's there. And so she has really just taken to being very close with nature. So that also gives me this very summer vibes. There's a lot of nice nature writing when we're talking about the flora, the fauna, the marshes, the setting. All of that is what makes me feel like this is a good book to read in the summertime if you are going to pick it up. Book number 3 I want to recommend to you guys is The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson. This is a book I have been really wanting to reread. I gave it a 5-star rating when I first read it. It's a nonfiction book, and it just reads so much like fiction to me in the way that it's just so readable. I was able to fly through it. It was so interesting. The way that the author writes the story, I could just go on and on. I'm definitely going to be rereading it soon, but the reason I included it on this list is for 2 reasons. One, it's the story of America's Great Migration. So the story of people moving from the South to northern and western cities in America. And I feel like in the summertime, it's a time when a lot of people are on the move as well. People are vacationing, traveling, seeing family, maybe even making big life moves themselves. So that's what gave me the summer vibes with this book, as well as the title, The Warmth of Other Suns. it's kind of obvious like why I would choose this book to be on the list. Specifically with America's Great Migration, this was a period of time from 1915 to 1970 when almost 6 million people were on the move and spreading throughout America. And I was not very well informed on this topic until I read this book, and I'm not saying that I am well informed now, but I'm definitely more than I was before I read this book. There's a lot of interviews and firsthand accounts and really just digging deep into people's personal narratives that I really enjoyed that perspective. This is one of those nonfiction books that even people who say they don't really like reading nonfiction, this is one I would start with. Don't let the length be intimidating to you. It's kind of a thick book, but it is definitely worth it. Book number 4 is The Sun is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. This is another book that has a book to screen adaptation movie you can watch if you do decide to pick this book up. I gave this book a 5-star rating when I first read it. I love Nicola Yoon's writing, and this is a young adult book. I chose to include this book on this list because of its readability. I feel like this is something that you could read in one day, and partially, in fact, because this book actually takes place over the course of just one day. I think specifically only even like 12 hours is this entire book. Our two main characters are Natasha and Daniel, and this book is a young adult romance, but I wouldn't say it is heavy on the romance because I am not someone who picks up a lot of romance books. At the beginning of the book, Natasha and her family are 12 hours away from being deported back to Jamaica. Natasha, as a person, is a very fact and science-based person. Daniel has an admissions interview with Yale, but his really life's dream is to be a poet. They end up having their meet cute at the beginning of the novel. They each have their things going on, and I just really enjoyed this book. I don't remember actually what time of year this book takes place, but I do think it might take place in the summer. I don't remember if it's explicitly said or not. They end up having this unexpected connection that we get to explore a lot of different themes through, and knowing that there's a certain time limit on the book is just like an interesting device that the author uses, and I feel like uses successfully. Book number 5 is 7 Days in June by T.O. Williams. This is a contemporary romance book. This is following the story of 2 authors. One of them, her name is Eva, and she is a single mom, and she writes erotic novels. The other one is Shane, and he is more of that award-winning literary highbrow author types. They meet at this literary event where they don't expect to see each other, and apparently they have history in the past that is now being brought up again. Our 2 main characters 20 years ago had this one week in June where they were in love, and we don't know exactly what happened, but obviously things didn't work out because they're not together now. But I just love the idea that they've been secretly writing to each other through their books this whole time. And so now, once again, they are reunited, and we're following them for another 7 days in the summer of June. So yeah, I'm recommending this book because it takes place in summer, but not only because it takes place in summer, but because I really enjoyed this book. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but this is another book that I look forward to rereading again in the future. And also, once again, I'm not someone who picks up a lot of romance books, but I really thought the premise on this one sounded very interesting, which I picked up and I was not disappointed. Book number 6 I want to recommend to you guys is Island Beneath the Sea by Isabel Allende. I definitely wanted to include a book on this list that takes place near water or has some type of themes around being by the sea and stuff, so I decided to go with this one because for me, I love to spend as much time as possible as I can by any type of water all year round, but specifically like the ocean, and especially obviously in the summer. Our main character, Tete, she was born a slave on the island of Saint-Domingue, and her mom is an African woman, and her father is one of the white sailors who had brought her mother over to the island on the ship. This book takes place in the 1770s. And so we have another character, Toulouse, who is arriving on the island because he's like taking over this business, the slave business and running the plantation from his like father or grandfather. This book really explores their lives together over 4 decades. This is a longer book for sure. If you're into historical fiction books, I feel like this is one you would really enjoy picking up. We explore the topics of like racism, slavery, and it takes place in Haiti as well as in New Orleans. If you're looking for a historical fiction book to pick up this summer, I would definitely recommend this one to you. Hello! If you guys have noticed any lighting change or possibly that my face is a little bit oilier, it is now many hours later. I was in the midst of recording this video, trying to before I went to work, and then, they decided to start blowing the leaves around outside, doing construction, everything, of course, so we're back, and now I'm going to tell you guys what book number 7 is on my recommendation list for the summer. It's a nonfiction book, and that one is The Library Book by Susan Orlean. This book I chose to include on the list because I feel like in the summer, whether it's hot or cold, wherever it is that you're at in your summer, going inside the library is a nice way to escape whatever weather's going on outside. And if you like to read, I feel like a lot of readers like to read books about books. I know those are some of my favorite ones to read. Also, if you're looking to pick up books this summer, then I would recommend you use your library and take advantage of that if you have one available to you. I really enjoyed this nonfiction book, and the title would suggest, all about libraries. While writing about the fire that took place at the Los Angeles Public Library back in 1986, the author also manages to just give a nice history about libraries and librarians. I love this book so much that after I read it, it really made me think like, maybe I should become a librarian, but I'm not going back to school. Before reading this book, I had never heard of this infamous fire that took place at the Los Angeles Public Library, but over 400,000 books were burned. And so it was interesting getting to learn about that event, as well as just seeing how important and necessary libraries are. A lot of people use the resources there to improve and better their lives, so I would definitely recommend you guys check this one out. My next pick for book number 8 is The Great Gatsby by Scott Fitzgerald. This one is for all the classic lovers out there, although I'm sure if you've read classics before, you probably have already read this one. I specifically chose this one because all the events that take place in this book take place over the course of a few summers, the summer of 1922. This book has definitely made it into a lot of pop culture. There's definitely a very famous adaptation of this book out there. Gatsby and Daisy are two characters that are very prominent in literature. It's a book that's filled with a lot of symbolism. It's definitely one of those classic jazz age, roaring 20s novels. While this isn't my favorite classic of all time, we'll definitely get more into that when we talk about our autumn book recommendations. This is one of those classics that I feel would be perfect to read in the summer. Next up, we have Atonement by Ian McEwan. This is a book I read very recently. This one also has a movie adaptation. It's another book that takes place, or at least not in its entirety, but a lot of the events that set the stage for the rest of the book takes place in the summertime. This one is taking place in the summer of 1935. I went into this book not knowing anything about it, not having any expectations. It is a little bit more of a slower paced book, I would say, but definitely I feel like slower paced books can kind of lend themselves to the summertime as well. Our main character is 13-year-old Brioni, but we're not following just her perspective. I think we're following others' perspectives as well. But one day during the summer, she witnesses this situation between her sister and another boy who is the son of one of the servants. All of that leads to a lot of different repercussions down the line, and the setting of this book is it takes place in World War II England. And because of this chain of events that happen, we get to explore how this family falls apart, and also we get to just see how the rest of this girl's life goes. And then last but not least, number 10, to wrap up this list, I'm going to flip the script a little bit, and we're going to go with something a little bit more fast-paced and on the mystery thriller side, and that is Riley Sager's book, The Last Time I Lied. This one is on the list because it takes place at a summer camp, so very fitting to end with this one. This book takes place at a campground in the woods, so it's definitely filled with a lot of atmosphere. Well, I would say this book is more faster paced than, say, like Atonement, a literary fiction novel. It's, as far as like the mystery thriller genre, it's a little bit on the slower end. Our main character Emma was staying at this summer camp, and 3 of her roommates end up disappearing, and she's the last one who's seen them. And now, 15 years later, she is returning back to the summer camp. In order to kind of like get some closure, move on from the past, she decides to return, and I think she's like a painting instructor or something like that, camp counselor, something along that veins. And of course, history starts repeating itself. A lot of bad memories are being brought up from the past, and we go from there. If you're looking for something to possibly listen to over the summer, as like if you are someone who is into audiobooks, then this is definitely an audiobook I would recommend you to listen to. So those are all 10 books I wanted to recommend for your reading list this summer. Let me know if you guys have any other summer recommendations that you want to share with me and with everyone else that's watching this, and we can go ahead and talk about them down below. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye!